prices in the same week pilot promo. Download the Union mobile app, open an account, or visit the nearest Union Bank branch. Terms and conditions apply. Union Bank, your simpler, smarter bank.
The Smooth Breakfast presents the headlines, the stories, the news. In-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly pressed on Smooth
98.1.
Union Bank, your simpler, smarter bank.
It's Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. Thank you very much for staying tuned. And it's time for Freshly Pressed 981. I'm Ayo Myro Essay.
And I'm Valentine Ohud. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Joining us on the show as well, we have Lakunle Yusuf. Good morning, Lakunle. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lagos. It's good to be here again.
It's good to have you on the show. Also, we have Oji. Oji, long time. Good morning. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Good to have you.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Good to be here. All right, excellent. Okay, so this is how you can be a part of the conversation as well. Whether you're a new listener, old listener, you're very welcome. We're streaming live on our YouTube channel. So go on to youtube.com, search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos.
Yes, and send messages through WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. That's our WhatsApp number 0809 444 0981. I'll start with you, Oji, on this tax issue, the VAT collection. I recall that the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt had on August 10 delivered a judgment restraining the FRS from collecting value-added tax and personal income tax in River States, and by extension, other states are borrowing leaf. Lagos is next, and some other states as well. Now, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, in a desperate bid to retain the collection of the value-added tax, has written to the National Assembly, written directly to the Chairman of the Constitution Review, asking for two things. First request, seek the inclusion of VAT collection in the exclusive legislative list. Second request, to approve the establishment of the Federal Revenue Court of Nigeria. First, Oji, do you see the federal government backing the FRS being a federal, federal agency? That's a given, right? First.
Okay.
Second question, why are they so desperate to do this?
Can I answer in pidgin English?
Yeah.
If not, you uncle. So
Good question.
this is obviously one of the biggest stories in the country at the moment.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
And it's big because of the potential it has to affect one way or the other the fortunes of the various tiers of government. I have my personal opinion about the case, but I'll try to keep about the entire issue. But I'll try to just I'll try to do a little educating here, as I like to do once in a while. The story is not about the judgments per se, because we all know the judgment was delivered 9th of August.
Yeah.
Was it 9th or 7th of August? But sometime last month. Yeah.
10th
Yeah.
of August.
Yeah. So, what has actually now come to play is that before the judgment was delivered, the FIRS had written to National Assembly, because the letter wasn't written. It was written sometime in June. Letter was written on the 1st of July. So that's about a month to the delivery of the judgment.
Yeah.
Look at it this way. You are in court with someone over the ownership of a car, and the court delivers a judgment and says A or B owns that car, and B, who has lost the case, appeals. And then it now turns out that while that case was pending in courts, because that's what has just happened here, while that case was pending in courts, B had written to someone else to say, please, can you give me ownership receipts for that car? That's all in a nutshell what has happened here.
Isn't there a word you could call it in law speak, in legal speak? It's not juris, does it not fall under this or sub judice?
It's even more than that here, because for me, it looks like an admission on the part of the National Assembly, so on the part of FIRS and the federal government. You asked earlier if the federal government is in support of them. FIRS is an agency of the federal government. FIRS was not the only party sued. The Attorney General of Federation was second defendant, so they also sued the federal government of Nigeria, and both of them defended the action and lost. Now, what is this case about? Who has powers to levy and collect VAT? It has been ongoing for a long time. I wish I had the time to explain it, but we run what we call enumerated legislation in Nigeria, which means the various tiers of government can only make laws on subject matters the constitution has asked them to make laws on or empower them to make laws on. That of the National Assembly is in what we call the exclusive list, and there's also a concurrent list that two of them can make laws on. Then there's really a bigger one, although it's not a list. People always call it a residual list. It's not correct. They are residual matters because they're not listed anywhere. So these are all other ones that are not listed in the exclusive or concurrent list are the ones that only the states can make laws on. So what it means is that anything that is not contained in the two lists, National Assembly has no powers to make laws on them. The Constitution expressly mentions matters that National Assembly can make laws on tax, and they do not contain VAT. That's what the case is about. So the Rivers State government has gone to court to say, in the absence of a specific provision in the Constitution empowering FIRS or the National Assembly to make laws on VAT, other sales tax. There are a lot of them actually, not just VAT, but of course
Personal
VAT is the
income
biggest
tax and
one.
all that, yes.
No, personal income tax has always been state government.
Right.
So the ones that are not listed, there are a lot of them. I just wish I could, but the ones listed are stamp duties, income tax, profit and capital gains tax. Those ones are listed. So what the River State government has said, and you mentioned Lagos. Lagos is in the process of passing a law
Yes.
that's
That's gone
now,
through second reading
yeah,
already.
yesterday or 2 days ago. I saw a copy of the bill yesterday. So what they have now said is, this is us. And what the other problem is that our constitutional history has been truncated once or twice by the military, because under the military they make law on anything. So there was a decree that allowed the federal government to basically collect a VAT, but the Court of Appeal has declared that act, and correctly so in my view, unconstitutional, because then it was made by a military. So it is now deemed, actually, for me it's not unconstitutional really, it should be deemed a law of a state. So what the court has, and this is not the first judgment of the federal court on this VAT matter, there's been at least one or two other ones, consistently on the point saying VAT is not listed in the constitution, therefore only the states can collect it. I tried not to get into the issue of the implication of the judgment, but all I'm saying, as far as this case is concerned, is that FIRS they've not done themselves justice in this case, because they have written to the National Assembly saying, please include VAT in the constitution.
But they don't have the powers. National Assembly, do they have the powers?
Oh, they can amend the constitution actually. They can amend the constitution, but what the question then is, if you had no powers in the first place, why were you collecting
Exactly.
it? So it appears to me as if they have realized that the court was going to rule against them, and they wrote that letter, and it does not, for me, reflect positively on them. The other issue I shouldn't forget is that they also asked for a special court to be created. For us, we never have original ideas. Anything we want special courts to be created for everything. If two people are fighting, special courts to be created to. No.
All right, I want to take Prince's comment, and I'd like to just take your thoughts on this in a very short statement. He says it's the citizens that will suffer on this VAT issue if proper harmonization of the state's laws are not put in place. For instance, a phone importer paid VAT on excise duty to custom, paid VAT to Lagos State because the business is located in Lagos, and also pays VAT to each state for every phone sold in each state. Imagine a trader transporting foodstuff from the north to south, and each state start to charge VAT at every exit point before getting to Lagos. Is this how it's going to work in practice?
No, it's not how it's going to work in
Break it down.
practice.
Well, if they are tolls, they'll be paid. No.
No,
Well, I mean, but in terms of the VAT, I'd like to, because Prince's comment is one of the number of people might be concerned about, and this is where and how it applies to the man on the street. So how does it work in principle?
I do not claim to be a tax expert. I also don't speak for the states.
Okay.
I've heard the argument of the FIRS saying it is impossible, it is difficult for the states to harmonize. I don't think that is true. It is up to the states to come up, and the fact is that most of the states they're not united on this point yet. I believe it's another example of a South-North divide that we always have. So it appears the southern governors or the southern states are in favor. What I would say is, the states have a responsibility to ensure that this does not that the average, the general I don't like to use ordinary Nigeria because nobody's
the man
extraordinary.
that
The
lives
man on the street, let me
man
put it
on
that
the
way,
street,
yeah, does not suffer. They have to ensure that there's no issue of double taxation.
Yes.
And it's not correct that when you are importing something, you pay what you are paying to the customer upon importation is not VAT. As you rightly called it, there's the duty or the excess. So it's not the same as VAT. It is at the point that the person is buying, and you don't buy an item 3 times.
Point of sale.
So that is where the person pays that VAT, not like everywhere you go to. It is if that person wants to then resell it and he sells stuff really. That is when someone else will pay. But it's not like they're going to everywhere you go to be paying VAT on the same item more than once. So I think I should just say that
All
we shouldn't
thank
worry. If it's going to work, it will work.
It will work. Thank you much.
Thank you so much. Now, luckily, I'd love your thoughts on this premium time story. NMPC National Petroleum Corporation, 2020, but government's refund helped the firm. The way premium time is catched this headline, because most headlines are just, trumpeting the profits being announced and say it's one of the gains of the Petroleum Industry Act. But what are your thoughts regarding this story?
Well, just that at least something is right in government now. Over the years, it must mean that these things that happened and we have written them off because, like they say, it's nobody's money. So I think that for the fact that we recognize that those assets that have been written off as, in quote, valueless is now being assigned its proper value. We've had instances that, or claims that there have been instances in the past that the federal government has transferred some of its liabilities to NNPC. That NNPC pays some bills on behalf of the government, whether confirmed or not. This suggests that may have happened in the past.
As a conduit.
Yes, whether for whatever it is, it may have happened. So this suggests that it's something that has happened. Whatever it is that they are spending the money on, maybe for the last 1 year, they said no. If we have done it, take back your money. It's a way to say, okay, I don't want you to be carrying my liabilities anymore. So I'm refunding you for the one of the last 1 year. If that's the one I can account for. So
is it that exactly, or is it just the federal government cleaning house based on the fact that, going by your allusion, sometime last year, a lot of people have been questioning the NNPC and asking them to, open their books and show their results, to expose the different details around how monies were spent.
Typically, yes. It's not even just last year. It's been for all our life that we've asked that. A lot of people have asked that question about accounting in the NNPC. How do you spend this money? We only hear this, that, and then you say there's a loss.
Now they publish
this result. We cannot question the content of that report because they were audited by reputable firms. They must have shown receipts to these people before they put up their signature over it. But so what we then say is that we hear based on the previous communication from the NNPC that it's going to go public, right? So then the word of caution here is for investors to understand that this profit we're seeing is not over a 365 days period. It's an income that came to them that they weren't planning for. It was not because of the business they did and they made profits.
It's just refund.
It's refunds.
From the federal government.
Let's use the simple word. It is refunds from whatever sources. According to that, I've seen a part of the audited reports. I think last night, it said something about sundry funds, which means that sundry means something that is not part of your ordinary business at all. Maybe, for example, they were paying rent on a house and they were paying, and the landlord was magnanimous, saying, you're supposed to pay me 1 million, you pay me 5 million, take back your 4 million. So
honorably, outside, so what? And the story here is nothing to see here, but the fact that without that sundry funds was refunded by the federal government, they ordinarily wouldn't have even recorded in.
Absolutely, because you would see here that it says something billion, but the profits they were declaring is 287.
To put it
So
in
which means that
context, yes.
even if you've taken out that 1 billion, the report would have been a loss in itself if it count those refunds itself.
To put it in context, thank you so much, Lakunle, for expressing very clearly. The release reports says in 2020, LMPC recorded 3.72 trillion naira as revenue, as against 4.63 trillion naira recorded in the previous year, 2019.
All right, thank you. And I just want to mention as well that for detailed analysis, we had this conversation also Business Express 981. The video is online. So in terms of breaking down the figures, thanks for giving us an overview, but we don't have enough time to break down the figures, help to explain the lines and what you just mentioned in terms of the fact that it's from receivables and not actual profits in terms of their trading that's reflecting in this report. So it's important. So if you'd like to look, check that out, you can go onto our YouTube channel and watch today's Business Express 901.
Yes.
Let me read Dele from Aja's comment. He says FIRS saying NAS should make VAT exclusive is a provocation to the states. The federal government don't even have specialized mediators and negotiators. The bills written by federal legislators in past and transition to executive acts were written by selfish people. This so-called constitution is garbage, in his opinion. The states are taking common sense for constitution now. The state has the jurisdiction to govern itself. They will use their legislators to settle this. Federal government should have negotiated that the states collect the VAT and not federal government collect and give the statutory ratios to federal government. Restructuring has commenced.
So let's just a bit of a reminder. Yesterday, River State Governor Yeson Wike ordered the state revenue collection committee, or rather agency, to immediately start collecting VAT, and threatened the FRS that if they try to bully the state revenue agency, he's going to lock up their offices.
He said so.
Yeah, he did. All right, let's move on to this next
Yes,
one.
he did.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah. On this day, federal government approves the 5G network. This was announced by the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami. It disclosed that approving the 5G network took cognizance of the reports of the International Telecommunications Union and the World Health Organization that pronounced it safe to human health. To make it very clear, he said, and I quote, that 5G network emits less radiation than 4G that we are used to.
Yes, it's true.
The thoughts?
Not a lot to say. Just that I know at least one person who won't be happy with this report. He also mentioned that there are three major benefits. In simple language, according to him, there were opportunities economically, academically, and educationally, and even in the health sector. He also says he's going to support our security institutions, particularly in the areas where they need high quality services. That's in those states that they've not stopped internet, mobile network.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Quickly, if I can add, is it cheaper?
It is.
Not to add.
It is.
Because at the end of the day, it comes to the naira and cover of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Let's move on very quickly to this next story. Lawmakers accuse AUGF of reckless spending of budgetary allocation. That House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts yesterday accused the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation of this. What are your thoughts on this, Lakunle, please? Briefly.
In this room, we have reviewed, I think, 2 or 3 government agencies before today. This is a 4th one, I think. And it's the same story. We did FRSC, we did, I think 2 others, I can't remember, maybe recall.
I honestly said Office of the Attorney General.
Auditor General, yes. Now, so this is a reflection. I'm saying it again. It sounded like a broken record of the anyhowness that pervades the entire system of governance, the people that we have. Now, reading through this report, it raises more questions than answers, even from the questions these people have asked. Now, the first thing that strikes me here is they paid some huge money for a clinic. Does the Office of the Auditor General maintain a physical clinic of its own? They bought drugs, yet they paid another amount, almost 100 million, for the staff members for the NHIS, the National NHIS. That's so. If the clinic exists, where is it? Those are the set of questions that they possibly should be asking them, not necessarily why did they spend this money. Second thing, It says something about salaries, and it showed the amount they paid. And I'm asking the staff, the employees, the civil servants in that place, are they on a different salary scale from the rest of the civil servants in the country? Do they pay themselves directly and not from IPs? That's another set of questions that they also need to answer.
Precisely, 1.9 million allegedly spent on new clinic, additional sum of 3.9 million spent on drugs and medical supplies, about 1.97 million on personnel costs in
That's two.
2019,
Billion.
1.9 billion
Billion, yes.
appropriated in 2020 for depleting workforce.
Okay,
and request for
so the last one then is this. Typically in government, the place where monies can be spent that you really may not be able to query, particularly for offices of accountant general, auditor general, is travels, because they would need to go to all agencies across with all locations where where government agencies exist nationwide.
Yes.
So the officials will travel, they will stay in hotel, they will get inconvenience allowance. So we may not be able to say that the amount they quoted here is
120 million.
inflated or deflated
No,
or
let's
whatever.
let Nigerians do
So-
let them be the judge. Do you think it is justifiable and common sense to spend 120 million
Yes.
or billion, because
Million.
we are throwing billions and billions around on local travel? Is that sensible
Now,
for any
in
agency?
the first instance, let's say this. One thing is clear with simple deployment of technology. Nobody needs to leave the head office of the Auditor General to go to anywhere to audit anything anymore. I mean,
But you're talking. Hold on. Hold on. You're talking about ministries and agencies that are not connected. Like
We're
that,
assuming
as you assume
so.
They should be.
Would it not be cheaper to
Would not
connect
be
them and
cheaper
save
to
the transport
invest in
cost?
that once and for all?
But if your independent National Electoral Commission is not doing electronic voting yet, it won't be
That's
far-reaching
it.
to
That's
say
even
you're
an
expecting your
extreme.
agencies to be connected.
Voting is once a year. This
My brother,
once every 4
I am
years.
saying that
This
we're
they do
still
it
trying
every
to
day.
get used to it yet. We haven't accepted electronic voting. So I think you'll be reaching to expect
Valentine.
the agencies who refuse to remit funds as at when due to have internet and a working computer in their office.
Valentine, I understand you. I'm saying voting is done once every 4 years. These people do this every day.
Yeah, but it's the same thing we're saying.
And over, but it's like saying that in the office we shouldn't have. I don't think there's any.
There's one here they
agency
listed that they bought
that-
computers. You just said they don't have
Let
computers.
me
They bought
ask
computers
everybody
for
in this
Okay,
studio.
we need
49
to
Just to
move
close,
on.
let me ask everybody in this studio: do we trust ourselves enough to agree to a figure that's been sent by any agency through WhatsApp or whatever file transfer protocol that they have to say, oh, this figure is complete or is correct? Wouldn't we rather send the personnel to their office to verify these records, looking at their books? Most of their books, mind you, is still in files. Physical files.
I think what the thing is, we're not saying they shouldn't travel at all. What we're saying is that this cost can be minimized significantly.
I agree.
If,
100%.
yeah, so that's what we're saying. We're not saying they are not going to travel at all, but we're saying that we are in a technologically advanced world. Even in banks and corporate organizations, you don't go to every single office to get a document.
Right.
Now, when you want to do the actual audit where you need to sit down, you can go 3-4 days. It would significantly decrease the amount of money that is being
I
spent.
agree perfectly. That's an ideal situation, but well, less than ideal.
Okay, I think this is when we're not in 1999.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. So bandit food. We're going to get to the this word I say anyhowness hopefully we have enough time to get there because there's another project in Anambra that they are questioning. But let me come to this one. Bandit food. Fuel suppliers intercepted in Zamfara. So, as part of reports from Zamfara State that you mentioned without mentioning earlier on, Oji, they're saying that these are the successes that have been recorded. So they've been able to intercept food suppliers, bandits. If you read the report, to be honest, and see what they've been able to curtail in terms of, not providing firewood to bushes, etc., it sounds really great. However, whilst you please expand on this story, Audrey, I'd like to ask, if we don't tackle the root cause or cut off the head, is there any point putting in these measures of curfews and taking down masks, etc.?
No. There isn't. When I first saw this story, first thing I said to myself was, look, you cannot sit in your comfort in Lagos and criticize what someone is doing in Zafra because you're not facing the criminal elements. But that said, I agree with you that we have to, these stopgap measures don't ultimately solve the problem. Because, yeah, we've introduced these measures, we've implemented them, so the criminals have sort of relocated to somewhere in the bushes. They've gone, they retreated, but that's not the end. The people are also suffering because it's not just the bandits who are suffering this. The markets have been closed. These people's source of livelihood, right? Food supplies have been curtailed, not for them. It is the generality of the people in Zamfara State are suffering this. I'll give you a few examples. So there are ones that are okay. So all weekly markets within Zamfara State are hereby suspended. I don't know if we discussed this some days ago in detail, but no sheep or cow shall be transported into or outside Zamfara State.
Yeah.
These are extraordinary measures. No filling station shall sell more than 5 liters of motorcycles, tricycles, to keke and motorcycles, and 40 liters to any vehicle. So these are austerity measures that we used to complain about under the military. We are seeing it happen right under our noses in a democratic dispensation. Yes, like I said, I don't want to criticize anybody because I really don't know what they're suffering. I haven't. I'm not the one suffering it. So, but we also have to ask ourselves questions. Let us not, in solving one problem, create another problem.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about more issues around accountability and money spent. ICPC, that's Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, tracks projects, recovers 6.7 million naira generator in Anambra. This is a very interesting story from the Vanguard newspaper. And, a little note here, it's not about the amount. You can say it was 6.7 million. We just talked about 100,000 million, 120 million, 100, I said 100,000, 100 million.
That's 1 billion.
1 billion. So why are we talking about 6.7 million? It's about the mismanagement of funds. It talks about money that was allocated to buying a generator. In fact, what's very staggering information is the fact that they bought equipment for a hospital that does not exist, a hospital that has not been fully constructed.
Primary healthcare, even.
Yes, PHC, Primary Healthcare Center. So please take us through the story.
I was somewhere yesterday, and I went somewhere in Ogun State yesterday, and the road I passed through was horrible. It was between two major towns in the state, right? And on the paper somewhere, that road is in awarded is being constructed. It's the same thing we see everywhere. Now, you have paid for a generator to be supplied for a primary health center. You have collected the money and you have not supplied the generator. And it amazes me how we do things this way. It's a different thing that you collected the money and you bought a lower rated generator for a lower amount than not to even do it at all. We were in this country once when a city minister relocated the generator from the National Stadium in Lagos to his in-laws village for a burial ceremony. So
sorry, just
we just get
refresh our
bolder.
memories. So any consequences for that?
Because there's none. We just get bolder every day with these things because there are no consequences. Now, you build a primary health center. You're supposed to build one. What is the urgency that should be attached to that? Now the equipment for it have been supplied. Now kept it in a private establishment, maybe somebody's house. At the end of the day, the person might end up claiming ownership of those things.
Nobody
Might.
Because there is no record on government paper, there will be no record for it. And then we'll forget the PHC itself. And until there are consequences for this, it's not enough for ICPC to tell us that they recovered it. Give us the names of the people. Let us see you try them or prosecute them. So
We
that
don't recall the lawmaker that's in charge of that constitution.
We don't want
we don't even want,
prosecution.
let's prosecute the person.
You have to recall him first.
Okay, recalling. I mean, that we don't want them to get to the ultimate. All right, so let me take this comment. This person says, "Let me put it to you. I worked with the federal government for quite some time, and this is how monies are hidden. Whenever you're in need of money and you relate to your boss, the next thing you hear is go and fill PTA, that's personal travel allowance, for X amount of days and submit to the cash office. The rot in the federal government system alone will cripple this country if not checked. And we've seen a few examples already. We're out of time, but just mention to our listeners that Naira extends free fall as dollar hits 535 Naira. And this is
Talking about PTA, maybe.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And just to mention that Lagos communities in the Ikotun area, Prince Adeyemi Street, Omoborewo Street, are fretting over exposed, vandalized petroleum pipeline, so that the authorities can address that. If this is a ticking, an explosion, we don't want that to happen and start, yes, and we start raising GoFundMe for repairing that place, as it happened
the last time.
in the state. But yes, thank you so very much for your contributions. We take this further during Lagos Talks 981, where we open the phone line so that you can call in to express yourselves. A big thanks to our analyst. Thank you, Oji. Thank you very much, Lakunle. And thank you to
Valentine.
and
Thank you.
myself.
And I
Have a lovely day. In a few minutes, we're back for Lagos Talks 981.
Union Bank.